All right, it looks like we are live on YouTube. Hi, everyone. I have Tina Siebel here, and she's now unmuted so she can join us. And I am hearing an echo of what I'm doing here, so I'm gonna.
Uh-oh, that's my fault.
No, I think you're all good. I had multiple things running at the same time. Anyway, my name is Maggie McKenna. I'm the director. Oh, I'll show you my face so I can say hi to everybody. My name is Maggie McKenna. I'm the director of the St. Lawrence County Arts Council. This is our new virtual program called Arts for Art's Sake. And every weekday at 4 o'clock, we're showcasing the fantastic talent we have here in the North Country with these live videos. Artists of all disciplines are showing what they're working on, or showing what their studios look like, or just sharing their art with us in some way. It's been a really great time. So I hope that if any artists are interested in participating in this event can be anywhere from 5 minutes to 50 minutes. I don't really care. It's totally up to you, and it's flexible. It's the community seems to really enjoy getting to know you all. So please do reach out to me via email, and we'll set up a time for you to join us. This event is really extra special because we actually have a sponsor. The Britt family, Miranda, Kiki, and David all decided to sponsor this event. So thank you so much to the Britt family for helping to support this program. If you're interested in sponsorship opportunities, you can also reach out to me. But it's really important that you help us out while we're in this very strange time. All of our programming is pretty much on hold, or we're thinking about new ways to hold our program in virtual ways. We could really use your support. So please do consider donating anywhere from $1 to $1,000. I'm flexible either way. It's all good. So just go to slcartscouncil.org/give to donate today. Without further ado, though, here is Tina Siebel, and she's going to show you some of her beautiful handcrafted work and show us how she does things. I'm going to just cancel my spotlight video and spotlight her so we can see her. And there she is. Let me spotlight you before we get moving too far. How do I do that? I did do it. Oh, pin video. There we go. Awesome. Thanks, Tina. Take it away.
So I'm here. Okay, I'm Tina Siebel, and I am owner and creator of Serendipity Creations, a handcrafted jewelry business that I started in 2004. I'd like to take the opportunity today to show you my studio, which consists of my guest room, my guest bathroom, and partial closet. So I'd like to take you on that tour now, and then I'll show you a few of my pieces that I have out, and then I'll try to explain to you my process in making the pieces. So here we go. Takes me a little while here to get everything going. Okay, so this is the bathroom, but it serves as my tumbling station. And in here I have ceramic beads that I tumble my sterling silver pieces in when they are all completed. And then the sink, which makes it very handy for the water. Here is what is called a pickling pot. It is a combination of like a chlorine bleach and water heated to 120 degrees. And you put the sterling silver pieces in the pickle pot after you have put heat to them, because it helps get rid of the fire scale. And then to neutralize that solution, you put it in a bath of baking soda and water, and that neutralizes the chemicals so that all your solder will then adhere to it when you solder it again, if you have to. And then my drill press, which is very handy when I do multiple drilling in multiple pieces rather. I do my own hand drilling also, but if I have, like I said, multiple pieces, I use this machine. It's a lot quicker. And then in here is my other studio, the other part of the studio. This is the guest room. This is my soldering station, and I solder on tile and porcelain tiles. for safety reasons, obviously, so that there are no sparks and stuff that can fly and melt any plastic or my clothing or anything like that. My workbench, which is a godsend, has a lot of my hand tools, my sign, Serendipity, that a very dear friend gave to me probably about 7 years ago. And more of my hand tools. And it comes with some handy drawers. And we have the inevitable junk drawer. And then a drawer for all my mandrels. I hope I'm not making this too jittery. And then all my hammers. I keep all my wire and sheets of sterling silver in Ziploc type packages in plastic. And they're all marked by gauge, because when you're in a hurry, like that 16 gauge, when you're in a hurry, sometimes it's hard to be able to tell exactly what size gauge you have in your hand, or at least for me. So I make this an easy way for me to just pull a sleeve out of the bag and go about my work. That's the cat's bed, Lily. She was in here asleep, but I think she got scared. She's my helper. Okay, and here's the closet that has some of my larger tools. This is called a plenisher. You don't want to get your thumb under that when you're hitting it. That is a great gizmo for flattening metal that has curved at all when you didn't want it to curve, if it wasn't part of your design element and you did want to keep it flat. Or sometimes when I make bangle bracelets, once I put them on my mandrel and hammer them, they become misshaped. So if I put it on that and then pound it, it makes it a lot easier. And then I have my electric grinder sander, which works great for taking off the backs of bezels when I'm making necklaces or bracelets. And then this is my ring sizer or stretcher. I use that when I am making rings, finger rings, and also my circles for my earrings and bracelets and necklaces. It just, again, helps keep them round. And if I'm making earrings and I want to make sure that both ears are the same size, then I make sure that they fit the same distance down on the mandrel. Here are some of my pieces that I pulled out for you to look at, and I will be explaining, not in detail, but generally how some of them are made and why I do what I do when I am making them. Some of the color isn't coming through very good, but I do want to showcase my new design this year for 2020. It's called I call it my river rocks, and they are naturally shaped and smoothed by the St. Lawrence River. I picked them all myself out of the riverbed last summer when I was up north, and they come with a little logo card that says River Rocks, naturally shaped and smoothed by the St. Lawrence River, and I have numbered them and signed them. So I'm hoping that they'll be a nice little keepsake for tourists and those of us who grew up in the Thousand Islands. I've already sold some to some friends from Cape Vincent, so that's pretty cool. And then some others here that these two are the class that I taught in Clayton last year, the circles. Okay, so now for one more camera adjustment. I hope. Nope, sorry. I don't have a cameraman here today, so I'm flying solo. So I had this all propped up ahead of time. Let's see. Does that work? Yes. Okay. So this is my soldering station. And here I will show you the process that I go through for making a pendant. What we want to do first is we start with, this is called bezel wire, and it is typically about 28 gauge, and it's fine silver, which makes it more pliable. And you measure this so that it fits around the stone like that. And then what we do is you solder the joints together, which there's my solder joint. And then when that's through, after I have soldered that, I put it in the pickle pot that I showed you. Let it sit in there for, I don't know, a minute or 2 minutes, doesn't really matter. It depends on how much soldering has been done to the piece. And then I quench it in the baking soda and water bath. Now I make sure that it still fits my stone, because this is the last shaping that you're going to do before you solder the sides onto the back. And my teacher, which I'll get into a little later, has always told me that the back should be as pretty as the front. So as you can see here, here's the back of my pendant. And she has a rolling mill that makes it very handy. So there's a template that you put through the rolling mill with your piece of sterling silver, and it embosses this onto the sterling silver. So, and that's what I start with, is a long piece of sterling silver. Sorry for the light. And so then I put this on the flat piece of sterling silver. And from there, I put the solder inside, so that when I apply the heat, the solder flows and connects the bezel side to the bottom of the pendant. And it has to have a complete seal, otherwise it won't look good, and we don't want that. And solder comes in various forms and I want to say strengths. I'm not really sure if that's the right word or not. But I use wire and sheet solder, and I use hard, medium, and easy. And the reason that there are different strengths is that when I do the first solder, for instance, this seam, I will use hard solder, because hard solder takes the most heat to flow. So then when I do the bezel side on the back, I will also use hard solder, because again, you want, well, let me say it this way. You start with hard solder, because when you start to do your embellishments like this and like this, you will use medium solder, because it won't take as much heat to adhere these pieces to the pendant as it did this. So when you are attaching the bails to your pendant, you are less apt to open these seams that you've already sealed, because you're using an easier grade of solder. So you start hard, medium, and easy. I don't use easy that much. I will if I've got one little spot somewhere here maybe that needs just to be filled in, we'll say. But again, solder doesn't fill holes. It attaches two pieces of metal together. So I say filling a hole. I guess what I meant was that if there's a little gap in the solder, instead of trying to heat it again with hard solder and take the chance of more of it getting loose, I will just put a little piece of easy solder in, just so that it is attached completely. Okay, so, and what I didn't say early on is when you are putting the two sides of the bezel sides together, you have to make sure that, you have to make sure that they come together completely and tightly. Because, like I said just now, that solder does not fill holes. solder attaches two pieces that are close together. So that's very important. So now I've moved on to this piece. I went ahead and did all these so that you could see the process, because I didn't want to do any actual soldering today because of safety reasons. You know, I have to pay attention to what you can see, and I didn't want the fire all around and all that stuff. So you can still see the basic idea. So this is what the piece looks like after I have soldered the bottom onto the bezel side. And we do this from underneath. When you solder, the solder flows toward the heat. So for instance, here's my torch. Solder flows toward the heat. So if the solder's inside here, what I want to do is, what I would normally do, oh, you can't see it. Okay, I have a tripod. This is the tripod right here. I have a tripod, and you heat from underneath. So for instance, this is on the tripod, and I'm heating it underneath so that the entire piece of metal is hot, because again, solder flows to heat. And if you keep the flame in one spot too long, you're going to probably put a hole in your metal, and then it's wasted. So, so you would then heat underneath, you always keep the flame moving. Like I said, you never stop. And then you would come up and you would do it on the outside, on the edges, all the way around. I love this little turntable. Oh my gosh. And you would do that, and you would go inside a little bit. So you always keep the flame moving. But once you remove your flame from your piece, it cools down. I mean, not completely, but enough that you've got to start almost all over again by making sure that your whole piece is warm again or hot again, so that the solder will flow. Maybe that's too much information. I don't know. Okay, so now I have done that. And also, what you do before you put it together is you always stamp your pieces with 925, which means it's sterling silver. And if you do use argentium, which is 935, or if you do use fine silver, which is 999, there are stamps for that also. But by law, you're supposed to stamp your pieces so that it is known to be 925. So I've done that to this piece. And then next, what I will do to this piece is I trim the edges. And I have these great metal scissors that are just lovely. I also have the Joyce Chen, which are also considered kitchen scissors, I guess, but I really like these better. And I get most of my supplies from Rio. So then what you do is you cut the edge around, you trim it, and you trim it close, but not too close, because you can't put metal back, as Mary would say, my teacher. But you can always take it away. So see how that is trimmed now. Now what I would do next is I would take it over to my grinder and grind it down just a little more. And then I would bring it over to my flex shaft. And with my silicone wheels, I would smooth it all out. And that's what I've done with this piece. This piece is all ready to have, for me to do whatever else I want to do to it. So what I've decided to do with this one, I wanted to demonstrate a few things on what my teacher calls sexy attributes of pieces. What I do first is, when I want to make sure that the stone still fits in here before I do too much more work, because things can move around. So I use dental floss, and I stick it in there. And so now I can easily pull it out when I pull on the dental floss. So now what I'm going to do is I have a small piece of square wire here, and I've already annealed it. And what annealing is I put it on my porcelain block and I heat it with my torch. And what it does is it loosens the molecules in there so that it makes it more pliable. Now, granted, this is only like a 14 gauge anyway, so it's pretty pliable on its own. But the shape I want to get, I want to really be able to make it fit quite tight. And I don't think I'll be able to do exactly what I want to do today because I'm nervous. But this is basically the look that I want to get from this today. A little tighter, a little closer. That's one of my favorite styles. And this is what that is something similar to what it will look like. If that's what I decide to do with it. Now, the important thing to know too is all of this work. So what I'll do is I'll shape this the way I want it. And I'll also decide on, I still call this a bail, even though it's not oval or anything like that. It still is what holds the chain so the necklace will hang. You need to do all of this design work and figuring it all out and soldering it before you set your stone. Your stone is set last because the stone will not withstand the heat of the torch. And trust me, it won't. So that's that part. So that's basically how I make a pendant. So now what I also wanted to do was to show a few other things. I make disc earrings, and I don't know if you noticed what I had on, but to make the disc earrings, I use what is called a die punch, or at least that's what I call it. And I pick the size that I want. There's all sorts of different sizes. It's a great tool for making round pieces. They come also in square and triangle and a whole bunch of things. But it's quite expensive to get a good piece, a good tool. So I just have the round one. The others I can use a jeweler saw or scissors to cut out. So that's okay. And what I would do is, for the noise, I won't go ahead and do this right now. But you put this in here and you tighten it. And something that I use a lot of when I use this tool and my jeweler saw is it's called burr life. And what it does is it lubricates your piece so that it keeps the edges nice and sharp and makes it easier to go through. So, and I have this nice hefty 2-pound brass hammer, and I hit it a couple times and it comes through somewhere. Oh, here it is. It comes through flat like that. So then I have the option of texturing it, which, well, I forgot to get my metal block out, but I have a metal block here, a steel block, and I would put this down. And this was a new design that I was trying out. I'm not real happy with it, so I've got to still work on it. I don't usually practice on sterling. I usually practice on copper, but I thought for sure it was going to be exactly what I wanted. So I just went ahead and did it. So I'll probably keep them for myself. But what I did is I bought a smaller, this is not called ball peen, but it's like a ball peen hammer. It's called a chasing hammer. and just hold and hammer wherever you want the little dots. The design is supposed to be plain in the middle and then the dots around the outside, but I don't really like the size of these little indentations. I wanted them just a little bigger, but I'll keep them and I'll wear them probably. So then to get the dome shape, I have this other little handy dandy tool like this. I'm not sure, doming block, I think it's called. It has different shapes, or excuse me, different sizes, depending on the size of the circle you have, and also how deep you want the bevel to be. So this one, I put in the big one, and I have about 20 different sizes of these. This one is the largest dapping, I'm not sure what it's called, dapping punch maybe. So I would put that there, and again, I would use my 2-pound hammer, and I would hit it, and you just keep hitting it and shaping it until it is exactly what you want. And that's that. Another thing, I guess I already showed you the full sheet of sterling silver, and what I do with the full sheets, you can buy the sheets sterling silver in almost any size, 6 inches by 1, 2, on and on and on, and the prices accordingly. But for instance, something like this, I would put the whole thing on there, draw it out, use my jeweler saw. This is a great jeweler saw. Use my jeweler saw and cut around the pattern. I got ahead of myself here. What I wanted to show you is my Bible. This is, I've had this since I started silversmithing, and this shows you all my templates that I've accumulated and all my extra ones, because I never want to use my last one, because I've done that once and I'll only do it once. So for instance, this is the flower I just showed you. And I have a girlfriend who's always challenging me with designs that she likes. So there's a page dedicated to just her. But in here, I put how I do things, possibly the cost of the piece I'm making at the time. And granted, prices change, but at least I have an idea. Wholesale figures, I had a disappointing news with this quarantine. I was supposed to go to Saratoga Springs in New York at the end of last month for the ANCA Buyers Days, and it was canceled. It was my first big wholesale show. So I was really excited about that, but oh well, we'll see what happens this summer. Here's an example of how I buy some of my stones. This is my new favorite, and it's Kingman Mountain turquoise. I never used to be a lover of turquoise, but I fell in love with this one because there are just so many variations, so many shading, veining to it. And I made myself a ring. I don't always keep the things I make, or I'll keep it until somebody wants to buy it. So
beautiful.
Thank you. I wanted to quickly say how I made these earrings. If you can see, they're a fan shape. And I started out with solid sterling silver and cut it the shape I wanted. And I used another Fretz hammer that has, I want to say like a blade. And there's a name for this hammer. I can't remember what it is. But on the metal, on the steel block, again, I hammer around the outside until I have the look that I want. And then what I did for the little designs that are around here is I melted some sterling silver, which is so much fun when you can melt your scraps like that and melt them into little balls, that's a lot of fun because it's kind of like a no-brainer. You just stick the heat to it and wait till it turns round and you got a bunch of balls. So, but what I did for this one is I wanted to make sure that most of the balls were the same size. So, for instance, I made some balls and then I would take it over to my planisher, the one that was that heavy pounding thing, and I would hit the balls with that until it was the right flatness or size, and then trying to make sure that they're all similar was a challenge, was a big challenge. So I have probably extra flat balls in here that I don't really need right now, but someday I'll use them. That's the one good thing about working in silver is that nothing is really wasted. You know, if you make a mistake, which I've got right here, I heated it too much. So this did have a jagged top. I mean, it was supposed to be serrated, and I had heated it way, way, way too much to get it to flow, to get the solder to flow. And so when I put the stone in and started to bend it over, they all cracked and came off. So so I tried just sanding the top layer off, hoping that maybe it would still fit it, but it didn't. So the good thing about that is I can turn that into balls, or if I had my own rolling mill, I could heat it and make more sheet metal, but I don't have my own rolling mill. But you can always sell it back as scrap. So that's one good thing. So there's a couple pounds of silver there. So that's pretty cool. I wanted to say a little bit about what I do and when I started and all that stuff. I started in 2004 with my sisters and my mom just on a whim. They wanted to make jewelry and I didn't really care, but they were all hanging out together, so I did. And so I started out with beading. And this is an example of, I still do some beading, but not as much. This is my #1 seller and was when I sold my beads. It's sodalite and it goes great with denim. It's a beautiful stone. And I did that for, I don't know, many years. And I also took lessons from the Thousand Island Art Center, St. Lawrence County Arts Council, online, the Florida Society of Goldsmiths and DeLand, Lake St. Lawrence in Waddington, and privately from a lady here in New Smyrna Beach, Mary. And that's quite an interesting story. About 5 years ago, my husband and I, Wally, were walking down the street in DeLand to go to dinner, and we walked by a silver studio. And there was a sign out front that said, classes, come in and sign up. And I said to him, oh, you know, that's something I've always wanted to do is work in sterling silver. And he said, well, go sign up. I said, no, you know, I don't want to, you know, I don't think I can do it, whatever. I don't remember what I said. But we went in, I joined the society and took my first 2 or 3 classes there that winter. And that was probably 6 years ago. And then that summer, when I was back up home in South Colton, I took a few online classes and it just wasn't working out. So I just continued with my beading work. And I also, well, let me continue with this. So about 3 years ago, a lady, Mary, opened a store in New Smyrna Beach, and I had taken a class from her in DeLand. So I walked into her place and I asked her if I could work for her in exchange for lessons. She is a wonderful silversmith. And she said, yeah, sure. So for the last 3 years, I have been able to have private lessons from this lady. And she has taught me absolutely everything I know. And I owe her a lot of credit. And she has taught me to be fearless, that there really are no mistakes. And sometimes you can change your design element by looking at something a little differently. So I have that to be grateful for. And so I do shows, I do festivals in both Florida and New York State in the summer. unfortunately, my last 3 shows in Florida were canceled, and then the wholesale show. I'm not sure yet what the status will be of the New York shows, but I've cut back this year, and my first show is actually in July 4th in Old Forge. This summer, I will be teaching in Clayton at the Thousand Island Art Center. I'll be teaching at Old Forge at the View, and I have spoken with Maggie about teaching in Potsdam, and I've also spoken with the ladies at Lake St. Lawrence in Waddington. I taught there last year, also at Lake St. Lawrence, and so I may be teaching up north this summer. Again, I guess it depends on the climate, the health climate. I do teach privately also. I've had a couple private students last summer, and it's funny, one student in particular, she just kept saying to me, "Wow, I certainly appreciate the price of sterling silver jewelry now. Man, I really appreciate the prices that you people have to charge." So it was good to hear somebody else, say that. So, but she learned. I think she learned a lot, and she was happy. And I hope she'll be back this summer also. So I guess I have covered everything that I really wanted to cover. If anybody has any questions, I guess they can post them or send me a message.
Yeah, I don't see any messages or anything on our YouTube live, but this has been so awesome, so much fun to see your studio and all your work. I actually, I have to unhide my video. I went and grabbed my Tina Siebel earrings. I love these little triangles.
I thought you had a pair of mine. Yeah,
I do. I got them in Clayton actually. I think at the Michael Ringer studio or something like that. Can you? My virtual background's doing weird things. There you go.
The St. Lawrence Gallery, he calls it in Clayton. It is a Ringer gallery, yes. I just sent 75 pieces to him for this summer's opening.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we should also consider maybe an online class. I have no idea what that's going to look like, but we're up for trying anything.
Okay.
Well, anyway, I was just looking at your website, so I hope that people will go to tinasiebel.com, go follow you on Instagram and on Facebook. I shared the links for those on this video, so I hope people will go check that out. But I want to give you a little round of applause. Thank you so much, Tina, for all this. It's been really fun hearing you and seeing you work. Thank you so much for sharing.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you for the invitation. And I do want to also thank Kiki, David, and Miranda Britt. That was very nice of them to support the arts, and in particular to support this segment with me. I really appreciate that.
I'll be sure to let them know. Well, then maybe they'll see this video. That'd be great.
Okay. All right.
Thanks, Tina. We'll see you later.
Okay. Bye-bye.